Modern industrialization is really cool in the fact that it makes things really, really complex, like this setup behind me, but then after that gives you a nice breath of fresh air with something that's really going to help you once you achieve that difficult bit. So this is the distillation tower. As you can see, very, very big, very, very long. So this is the setup here for stainless steel, which is super duper complex. But once you've made your stainless steel, the distillation tower is really quite simple and it's going to make your life a hell of a lot easier. So the few things you're going to want to make, first of all, are going to be the distillation tower unit itself. You could put it on the ground, and then you're going to need some stainless steel casings and some stainless steel pipe machine casings, and these are pretty much the same as all the other pipe machine casings, etc. You've made. You just need a load of stainless steel to make them. So, if we go all the way back to the beginning of time, you have been making diesel for your medium voltage diesel generator, and maybe at this point high voltage diesel. You can make the high voltage diesel one round about the same time after you get stainless steel. So you may or may not remember that you put your crude oil that you're getting in your oil drilling rig into two distilleries, and you're going to get crude oil into sulfuric light fuel and heavy fuel, which is obviously a really annoying process because you're having to use individual machines. Now that we have the distillation tower, you could do it all in one. Let me show you this as an example, and I'm going to show you everything else you need to know. It's very, very simple. You basically make a donut shape like this, and then the bottom doesn't... Okay, let me rephrase this. The distillation tower can be different heights, and the bottom layer is not included. So, for example, if we look at the distillation tower uses, we can see that with crude oil, we can make sulfuric light fuel, sulfuric heavy fuel, and sulfuric naphtha, which is 3, okay? So we need to make a height of 3. 1, 2, 3. And hence, the bottom layer is not included because that's kind of like the controller layer. So you literally just make it like that. The bottom layer is, the bottom layer is plating. So put a plating on the bottom, and then your actual layers are going to be the pipe machine casing. So 1, 2, 3. That is now a 3-height distillation tower. If I go into the tower, you can see it says active. You need to click select multi-block shape and go to height 1, 2, 3. If I go to 4, it says shape invalid. What you can do is keep going up all the way to 9, so 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and make it, so like I've made this one 9 tall. If I go in here and select the shape as 9, it's active, but I could also put it down to 3 and it will ignore the ones above it. So if you do or can make the materials, I would advise that you just make it all the way up to 9 and then just make it the height that you need for whatever you're doing. So let's leave it as 3 for now. So what are we going to need in here? Well, we're going to need a fluid input for our crude oil. In this example, at least, we're going to need an energy input. You can basically make any energy input you like. So at this point, we have the LV, MV, or HV. Whichever energy input you put in here is the energy input that it can take. So obviously if you're using MV, use gold cables. If you're using LV, like I am here, then use copper cables. One thing to note is if we look at, again, uses, you can see here we only need 36 EU per tick, so a low voltage input for things like crude oil to make these fuels. Whereas if you want to do the higher fuels, like steam cracks naphtha into methane, blah, 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 then medium voltage would be appropriate. So it's entirely up to you there. So I'm going to use an LV input hatch. I'm going to use a steel fluid input hatch. Again, doesn't matter which fluid input hatches you use. And then you're going to need some output hatches, and just make sure that you have enough for the height that you're going for. So obviously on a free height, we only need 1, 2, 3 output hatches. We're going to, of course, need an LV power input, and we're going to need a fluid input. Then hook up your power. So I'm going to hook up my creative one and just add a copper cable. That's all I need for the LV for crude oil. And then I'm going to put in my creative tank of crude oil. Obviously, you would hook it up to your oil drilling rig or wherever you're having your oil stored, and put in a fluid pipe, which this is all pretty self-explanatory at this point. If you get into the distillation tower, then you know how to use a pipe. So once that goes in, we can go in here and you can see it's active and it is creating the progress. And there we go. We can now look into our outputs and you can see we've got the sulfuric naphtha, heavy fuel and light fuel all being made in the output hatches. If you are using a 9 high one, obviously remember just to put it down into height 3 and it will just use the 3 height ones. And that is how you use the distillation tower. The other things it can make then, because honestly I've forgotten myself and I want to look. We could put crude oil in here and get these 3. We could put shale oil in and get helium, sulfuric crude oil, and sulfuric naphtha. We can put steam cracked heavy fuel to get light fuel, methane, butadiene, and benzene. Steam cracked light fuel, again, getting these, or steam cracked naphtha to get methane, acetane, ethylene, propene, butadiene, benzene, toluene, and ethyl benzene. Cool, blimey. I hope YouTube isn't tracking what I'm saying, otherwise I'm going to have the FBI knocking at my door with all these. Everybody wonder what the hell I'm making. But there you go. That is how we use the distillation tower.